This is 100% real. And as of last week, I officially own $0 of real estate. Not a single property, not a fraction of equity. I am 100% out of real estate. And unless something very specific changes, I plan on keeping it that way. Not except for Karma's Ronin, my prison bus. But if you call that real estate, then yeah, you can call me a liar. But the way that everyone else means it, yeah. No houses, no mortgage, no passive income. And I think a lot of you are starting to understand why. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you why I'm out. And by the end of this video, I'll outline a scenario where I might actually consider getting into a very narrow real estate play, potentially, if the stars align. But let's start with this. Right now, owning real estate has to be the absolute dumbest thing you can do. We'll start with the obvious headline. You've probably seen it. We have historical imbalance. There are 500,000 more sellers than there are buyers right now, a figure that's never existed ever. And I predicted something about 3 or 4 months ago. I said that this gap is widening and that homeowners are not going to be able to sell their properties, and they're going to start putting their properties into the rental market because they won't have any other choices. And I said that this would be good for Airbnb in the way that you could do arbitrage. You can talk a homeowner who's rotting on a property for 6 months into renting to you because they have no other option. And because they're desperate, they'll allow short-term rentals where you would not have to own the property. So why buy a property and be the person holding the bag into this future of uncertainty now where you could just rent the property from the same landlord who just needs their holding cost problem solved, and you can have access to all the cash flow that Airbnb drives for you? I've done this hundreds of times. I've scaled a business to over 150 Airbnb properties, owning none of them. By the way, zero. And when I first started Airbnb arbitrage, the world kind of looked like this in a slightly different, slightly more narrow way. I was in Houston, Texas, and there was an oil collapse. And because of this oil collapse, all of the projected growth for Houston stopped, just on a dime. And buildings, brand new apartment complexes, suddenly had no one to rent to. Because Shell, Halliburton, BP, they stopped hiring, they started laying off people. All of the projected residential occupancy was gone. Houston had a huge problem. So they started doing leasing specials, 8 weeks free here, 10 weeks free there, just to get anybody to stay anywhere. Meanwhile, they were paying apartment locators 200% of a month's rent and commission at the same time. These buildings were giving up 5 months of rent sometimes just to get a year-long lease. That's how desperate that they were. Now, this was just mostly Houston and other oil cities, and of course they bounced back. But at the time of uncertainty, deals could be made. And now globally, I think deals can be made, is what I'm saying. Because there's a second reason that being a homeowner right now is going to be the worst thing over the next year. Another terribly ominous metric is that home builders are sitting on nearly 11 months of inventory. It would take them 11 months to sell the inventory for what they've built. Now, this rotting inventory functions completely differently than your mom and pop that's trying to sell a house right now, because they have to sell. And because builders have to sell these properties upon completion, and because the interest rates on this debt is so high, if they do not sell these properties quickly, they will be underwater. And quite frankly, so many of them are already. And their only way out is to start selling these homes at a loss. Because holding properties for a year with a high interest rate, they're just going to continue to bleed until the Mexican standoff ends and somebody finally fires away, unloading their inventory into the market at a discount, causing a cascade of discounts and sales. A flash crash in the real estate market, as it were. And if you have real estate right now and developers start unloading at 10, 20, 30% discounts, that will affect the price of your property. You're about to go off a cliff if you own property right now. And we don't even have to talk about interest rates. You are all intelligent enough to know that the interest rates right now are not as ideal as they used to be. And we could drop the rates, arguably. Trump wants to believe we can, but for some reason those rates aren't going down. But like I said, there is a scenario that I might actually buy property. And it could come soon. There's a few ways that with the right mindset, you can make a killing in real estate. First, foreclosures. I just saved a friend from a foreclosure. I wrote him a $30,000 check to keep his property in his possession and have him Airbnb the property and pay me back with his Airbnb proceeds, because that's a solid idea. But if he went into foreclosure, that property would have been sold at a steep discount, and immediately there could have been some equity capture. I think it's going to get worse. I think that buyers are going to get smarter, and they're going to drive down these foreclosure auctions to lower and lower percentages. Because if a new build is going to get sold at a discount, it's going to train the market to buy low. And foreclosures, we might get at 30, 40% of value instead of 60, 65% of value. If it comes out that people are succeeding at buying foreclosures for less than 50% of value, you'll absolutely see me in that soup line. bowl in hand. But that's just on the residential side too. You all know that there's a commercial real estate crisis right now as well. There's a huge squeeze on margins. And debt is being recollateralized because of the higher risk profile. And some of these commercial debt holders have so little equity and so little cash that they can't afford to recollateralize their loans, meaning they have to sell these properties. And a distressed property is normally a problem, but not in my world. You see, I do Airbnb, and I love properties that don't have tenants in them. So if there's a multifamily that's a bit distressed, 50% occupancy, great. I don't have to evict anybody. I don't have to non-renew anybody. Give me that property. Let me do my remodel. Let me do my thing. I'll add my stamp, my sauce. And then the 50% that are already empty, they'll be back on Airbnb in an instant, making me heavy cash flows. And I would rather that than get into some stupid bidding war with 3 other commercial buyers for a property that's 91% occupancy and overpriced based on cap rate or whatever. And I've been waiting for that for about a year now. I think the time is coming. And I even wrote Santa a letter this year, so I really think it's gonna happen. I think it's gonna happen. Now, those of you that know me, that are part of this channel, that really know me, nothing that I'm telling you is a surprise. I'm out of real estate because I've never been in real estate. I'm in Airbnb. Airbnb is not real estate, it's hospitality. I'm so deep in the game of Airbnb, you couldn't tear my dead hands from it if you shot me in the head. I have hundreds of properties on Airbnb, and I don't own a single one of them, and I never have. So yes, I don't own a single dollar of real estate. And I most likely will not buy real estate. And I'm not ashamed that I did not. Sure, I missed the COVID boom, but do you think that I was going to actually sell in 2023 at the peak? No, I don't have the discipline for that. I've lost millions of dollars in the stock market because I don't know how to sell at a profit. They say see green, take green. Sorry, my favorite color is green. I'm going to hold on to that thing until it turns red again. And let's all be honest. How many of you sold at the top? And if you did, clap. How many of you hold something at the top and look at it for how pretty it is and then you miss your moment? How many of you have a pit in your stomach because you know real estate's about to crash and you know you can't sell your property unless you flinch first and drop your price, and you don't want to? You're too scared to drop your price. So what will you do? Maybe you'll rent your property to me and I'll pay the rent and handle your holding costs, and you can stick your head in the sand like an ostrich for a few years, and maybe we can ride this out together. So I also have thousands of students all over the country, actually even 43 countries, by the way. If you own property and you're afraid of the crash and you don't want to sell at a loss and you're afraid of being a landlord, then find your local rental arbitrage operator and we'll partner with you and we'll run the thing as an Airbnb. Most of us are good at what we do. And if you're unsure if your property will make money as an Airbnb, I've got a couple of videos for you. I'm going to put them in the corner. A little bit of market research, and this one's a secret. 5 main reasons why properties do super well on Airbnb in markets all over the country. So if you want to know if your property fits the mold for a standout property, watch this video. Or if you're looking to pick up a property and you want to know which ones are the best to pick up, watch that video as well. Thanks for being here at the end of the video. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for supporting me on this channel. And as always, I'll see you on the other side.